Good morning, everybody. I'm Emanuele Tessarolo, and I'm the president of the association Cinque Vie Milano, the association which organizes these meetings. Today, I want to give our welcome to the Hong Kong Design Institute. A big thanks goes also to Stefano Fossati, the director of Istituto Italiano di Cultura di Hong Kong, who really wanted this design made in Hong Kong meetings. You can follow us on our site, designmadeinhongkong.com, and on our social, Instagram and Facebook. It's time for me now to introduce our curator, Mrs. Annalisa Rosso. Please, Anna.
Hi, good morning. Thank you, Emanuele. Thank you, everybody, for being here again for our second meeting. I'm very glad today because we are going deeper on the how can I say, on the path of Federico Peri. And I'm very glad because today he will present us his inspiration with selected case histories that will be going to be truly inspiring and a relevant part of the design history, especially from an Italian point of view. The Made in Italy glaze of Federico Peri will present a special direction he is following with his work, but I'm sure that this will be really interesting even from a global point of view. Thank you, everybody, and seeing you in half an hour more or less for any questions and follow-ups, and thank you. Enjoy.
Hello, everybody, and thank you, Annalisa and Emanuele, for inviting me in this discussion. And today is the second webinar, and I followed my last webinar where I show you my works and my project, especially the furniture. And today I'm going to show you my path and my inspiration, and in order to let you better understand how it could be a professional path for a designer, and I hope you will find it useful also for your future. So I'm going to show you the presentation. So I'm going to start from the beginning of my career, and when I studied design at the university. So I attended the interior design course, even if at the end I'm probably more recognized for furniture instead of interior. And this was a really important period because I did my first connection with design, my first test with idea, with the proportion. And especially I remember that I did a lot of utopian projects that let me express more and let me think out of the box. That is really important during the university period. Then I moved to Paris thanks to a scholarship, because I won a scholarship for that was an artist residence. Then so I've been in contact with so many painters, video maker, photographer. So there were a really interesting international feeling. I was really surrounded by creativity, by new things, and especially I was outside my comfort zone. And this is a thing that I really and truly suggest you to do if you have the possibility, because it's really important, especially in the beginning. Try to force yourself to act in a different way and to work in outside your comfort zone. But this is also the period when I start to do my first interior design project in a design studio. But then I realized that this was a good experience, but it was maybe better a personal experience than a professional experience. And in fact, I realized that it wasn't the perfect studio to grow as a designer. That's why I moved back to Milan, and I start to work with the Fili Severino Partners, that is an international architectural and design studio that are based in Milan and Shanghai. And it was really important for me because I have the possibility to work as to have my first important role in a design studio. So really important as a professional growth. So I can say that Paris was more related to the personal attitude and personal growth, and while Udefiri Severino Partners were more on the professional aspect. And then in 2011, I ran my own business and I opened my small studio. In the beginning was in the center of Milan, in Porta Venezia, not so far from the place where I'm based right now. But I started, as I was an interior designer, I started to work just on interior project. It was a different project like retail, hospitality, showrooms, private house. And every time that I design the interior, I felt that my main interest was to design every single pieces that compose the interior. So maybe sometime in some project, not all the project obviously, but in some project I was more interested in design the single furniture or the single detail instead of to see the final result in global. So that's the reason, the principal reason why in 2014, so 3 years later, I start to think also to exhibit my collection, something that was really personal, and it was a sort of self-production that in some way can be considered as also a self promotion, because I design a collection that I exhibit during the design week. And this, if you are interested in this kind of path, it's really important to act personally, to try to produce something and then to exhibit, because you can have a lot of visibility, and this permits you to open different possibility. In fact, after 2 years of exhibition in 2014 and 2015, where I exhibit during Fuori Salone in Milan, I have been noticed by design gallery. It's an international design gallery that is based in Milan, and they invest in my production, in my figure as designer, and we start to work together to design different pieces. But the most important thing was obviously was this contact with the gallery. But the gallery permit me to have more visibility and permit me to work with different design companies. That was my main interest. In fact, in 2016, it was my first collaboration with a design brand that is Fontana Arte, a brand, I can say an historical lighting design brand, Italian. And this was my pattern furniture. So 2014, the first exhibition, and then it developed in 2016 with the first collaboration with a design company. But in the beginning, in the real beginning, as I started to the university in 2004, in that period, the web internet was not so efficient about design. There was just few information, just few design blogs, and not most of the time this kind of blog were updated, but not so much, just once per week. So my main interest was to spend a lot of time in the public library and to read books, to learn from the master of design, to learn from the master of architecture, and mix together with this kind of historical known, to mix also the magazine, so to balance contemporary with the magazine and the history of design with books. And probably my was one of the last generation of designer who in the beginning spent more time on paper instead of design blogs. And nowadays it's quite easy to check internet, also with the smartphone that in that period that was not ready on the market. So now it's really easy to check web, to check design blog, to check everything on the web. But I truly suggest you to check books and to learn from the history, because then it's much more simple to understand the contemporary. And this kind of research really helped me to build my own identity. In fact, I realized that two movements that I really loved in the past was Bauhaus together with the Italian rationalism from one side. Another side, I love the Art Deco and also the Viennese Secession. And it's a sort of dualism between something really really rational, some way is really rough, together with something really decorated. So two different elements together. And also I start to love and to admire some architect that I'm gonna show you in a minute. And these are just few that I really love at most, like for example, Carlo Scarpa. And another aspect that was really important for my identity is to understand the sense of color, the different shade of a single color, the potential that the color has in our mind, and also in the final result in the design, and together with materials that maybe is the topic that I love at most, and one of the probably the topic that I used to start my single project that could be furniture or interior, whatever. So I'm going to show you some examples, some reference of my inspiration during these years. And probably Carlo Scarpa is the master of detailing. I love his, he is not part of the brutalism movement, but some way I can consider his work as a balance between brutalism and Art Deco, because everything was really rough, but at the same time it was really defined and well decorated, like in Art Deco. So I love this dualism between the two different topics. And in this slide you can see some detail, probably the more common detail that you can see in Carlo Scarpa works. The first is the logo of Olivetti, is an Italian brand, and it's just in the front, in the facade of the store in Venice. They have an amazing store. Now it's like a museum in just close to Piazza San Marco, so in the heart of Venice, and I really suggest you to see this if you pass by Venice. Another project that is really interesting is not so far from the place where I was born, because it's just 10 kilometers far from my native place, and it's a tomb. It's nothing so happy and beauty, but it's a tomb. It's like a mausoleum of Mr. Brion, that was the owner of Brion Vega, that was a company of electronic apparel, an Italian company of electronic apparel. He designed everything in concrete, so it's really massive. But as you can see in this picture, he detailed everything, and he used concrete together with wood, together with bronze in a really amazing way. I suggest you to check out for this project. And then he's a master of detail also in the simple things, not just in the architectural part. As you can see in this picture, there is a handrail that is part of a big project that is really well detailed. And as you can see, I love there is a sort of poetry in this kind of picture, because you have a lot of overlapping, a lot of inception of metal, and I love the final effect, the balance. It's not just a simple exercise to put together many details, but it's something that together give a sort of timeless. I mean, it's not a luxury as we consider nowadays. It's more a timeless beauty, something that will survive forever, this kind of language, in my point of view. And then it was really great also with the work with glass. In fact, in the beginning of his work, he spent a lot of time, as he was born in Venice, he spent a lot of time working with Venini, so one of the most important glass fornace. And his project was absolutely incredible in the beginning of his career. Then another master of design that you probably know is Gio Ponti. He's one of the most famous architects in Italy. And like in Carlo Scarpa works, he were really good in detailing everything, not just the building, but also every kind of his project was designed by him, from the kitchen to the armchair to the till the handle, even the single small piece. And I took from him, as Carlo Scarpa, I took a sort of inspiration of detailing. From Gio Ponti, I took the importance to be coherent with the work. In fact, if you see the works of Gio Ponti, you can see that it's different from one product to other, but in some way there is a line who connects everything. There is the use of color, the use of shades, and then another important thing that teach me the history of Gio Ponti is the role as designer who work in the interior. He especially work on the architectural part, but in interior that goes to the industries. In fact, many of the projects that he designed on the private villa or interior, that could be, as I said, a sofa or an armchair, then goes to most of the time goes to the industries. And this was really interesting to see how he managed both parts. Then there is Sarfatti, that is, I think it's, in my point of view, is the master of the Italian lighting. I love his way to design the light, to consider the light. I can see a sort of happiness and joy in his work. And this was really fascinating for me in the beginning when I started to design my first project of lighting. I can see, as I say, I can see also a kind of happiness and joy aspect. If you consider, for example, the second picture, the one with a kind of ball at the base, and it's like a baseball ball in leather, and inside there is sand. And it's really a simple table lamp that you can move, and the lamp stay in the hold in the place that you move, in a really simple and smart way. There is nothing too much decorate. It's just technical with a smart aspect. Or then I love other example could be the freestanding lighting. The vertical one was quite uncommon in that period. We are talking about the middle of the last century. Uncommon, this kind of lighting system. Or again, I love also the reflection that the light goes, the idea of the reflection of the light that from one source goes to another surface, as you can see in the last picture. Another design studio that I really admire are BBPR, that are is the initial of the surname of the four architects of the studio. They are part of the rationalism, Italian rationalism, and they were really, there is a kind of rigor on his work. And really, in this case, I love the balance between the furniture design and the architectural part. If you can see, these are just a few examples, but in furniture was really rigor, simple some way, even if they are well detailed, but they are quite simple, and some way also timeless. And the dualism with the architectural part that was really massive. As you can see, this example that I took here is the Torre Velasca, is a famous tower in Milan. made by them. And as you can see, you can see that there is some kind of feeling that connect everything. But I love when you make a comparison between furniture and architecture, you can see a kind of different approach. In most little bit earlier but similar to them, there is Piero Portaluppi is my favorite architect. Piero Portaluppi acts in the period that I loved most, that was in 1920 and 1940 especially, then also in later, but that was the most important period for him. And everything is well synced. It's really, I think it's timeless. My point of view is really timeless, and the proportion is one of the aspects that he studied at most. The first two pictures is an example of one of his work in Milan. The project is Vilanecchi, and I really suggest you to check this project on web and to see the first time that you pass by Milan. Everything is really well detailed and it's really well made. There is not a sort of trend that he follow up. It's just a sense of proportion and a sense of beauty that he transmits with this kind of project. And as well as in other projects, as you can see, the other interior are really the third one is really geometrical. Now is a contemporary art gallery. But I love the use of color, the use of proportion, and in fact, I learned from him a sense of proportion and a sense of timeless. Then Joe Colombo is quite different compared to the preview that I show you. I'm not a fan of this kind of design about the final, the aesthetical, I mean. But I love the thing that there is behind the project. The first, for example, is the first project is quite interesting also for the project that you are doing that we will see next time together. It's called the Total Furnishing Unit. It's like a big furniture of 28 square meter that is like a living unit cell. Everything that you need you can find in this 28 square meter, and it's really interesting the way how he conceived the polyfunctionality in the furniture, as you can see also in this small library with different drawer or different pocket, or especially in the tube chair that is produced by nowadays produced by Cappellini. And it's an armchair that you compose as you need and as your pleasure, as you can see in the sketches. Just 4 elements that you combine, and you can choose different kind of seat. And at the end, you can also put everything together because the number 1 is the biggest and number 4 the smallest, and you can put everything together one by one, and you have a compact seat that you can also put into a cabinet and you save space. So it's quite also a contemporary topic, this about saving space inside a living area. Well, again, also I love the idea of the kitchen. It's a really small kitchen that is produced by Italian brand that is Buffy. And I suggest you to check also this project about polyfunctionality. And everything you need in a kitchen is inside this small cube. There is the fridge, the stock, there is the cooking top, there is everything. So it was very interesting for me, especially when I studied this this profile in the university. And in fact, polyfunctionality, then you can see a touch of polyfunctionality in my work. But the last that I want to suggest you is not Italian, like others, but was really important in in my works. He was a graphic, was a designer. He experimented also with glass, metal, with different materials. He's one of the master of binary suggestion, and he's from Austria. And I love his interpretation of detail. Everything is of decoration. Everything is really gentle. Nothing is too loud. So I took from him this kind of gentle decoration inspiration. And but I love also a lot of contemporary designer. These are just some example of the one that I love most in this moment. Borolek and Endo, I think, they are really smart designers and are really contemporary. And I love also the research, the proportion, the work on the material of Vincenzo De Cotis. That if you don't know, I suggest you to check his website. And Neriu, that obviously I assume that you know them. For me, is a perfect example about how the Chinese contemporary design is going. And I love their work and also how they collaborate with European brand. But finally, I have been inspired a lot also about art that could be contemporary or historical. And this example are really different one from each other. That's because I think it's really important to discover, to study different kind of movement, because everything can brings to you something different that you can then interpret in your own way. In the beginning of my career, I was part of my interest goes to Elitsitsky. It was part of constructivism in Russia. I love his way to work with shapes and to use different material compared to the one that was used in art. And at the same time, I love also the work of Modigliani that is in the same period of the previous one, but it's totally different. From Modigliani, I took a sense of geometry and a sense of that it was current in his work. Everything you can recognize that was made by him. So these are two elements, two artists who lives in the same period, but that were totally different. And then on Modigliani, I love also the use of color. It's really gentle. Exactly how color is really important in the work of Spalletti, that is contemporary, passed by, I think, just exactly 1 year ago. And he was some way the master of color, from my point of view. The research of color is really interesting. And I suggest to check also this. And finally, Oliver Eliasson, with the use of lighting, his experimentation with the lighting is really interesting as well. And there is also, not so long time ago, I saw a video in Netflix about Oliver Eliasson. If you have the chance, I suggest you to check. I don't remember the title, but it was really interesting to understand how he approached his research in make his creation. But everything, all the reference that I show you today permits me to identify my own design that I can simply summarize in 3 different topics. That is the matter, the polyfunctionality and interaction, and contamination. The matter is the first element that I consider when I start to design a project, even if it's interior installation or a product. I think it's the aim of every project. It's really important to work, from my point of view, to work with the true materials who respect also, I mean, the nature, and also respect the DNA of the brand, in this case, that you are working with. The first example on the left is a collaboration with a Portuguese brand, and they are well known for the use of wood and rattan. That's why I designed a collection of low table with this material. And also there was a kind of dualism is a term that I love, and I already told to you in the beginning. Dualism, every time I'm interested in dualism between the elements. As I love the pure material that could be glass, but glass is transparent or could be colored. So I love also the dualism and the contraposition between these two elements that together could be perceived in a different way, the contraposition. And then another topic that I really love, I already talked about polyfunctionality with Joe Colombo, the one who designed the total furnishing unit. And in some way, these are two examples, the two on with the white background, two examples of my first test with furniture. It's part of my first collection. And here, as you can see a polyfunctionality, because the seat is not just a chaise longue, but it's also a library, a bookcase. It's also a traditional seat that you can use close to a table to read and to work. And you can also interact with the object, because you have the lighting that you can move, adjust in order your needs. And at the same time, also the central furniture, that is Scaffale d'Arte, is a working unit. So you have the desk, you have the shelf and the lighting that you can move, so you can interact with the object. Exactly also with the last project that I designed this year, that is a bed. The name is Stone Bed, for an Italian brand called Baxter. And as you can see here, you can not realize the polyfunctionality and interaction, because it's simply a bed. But if you check on the right side, where there is the low table, there is also a metal stick that in the part that goes up to the top part is a lighting. It's just it's like a magic stick. You touch at the top, and then it appears the lighting. So also in this case, there is not just the functionality of the bed, but there is also the integrated lighting, and so the interaction with the object. And finally, I love the contamination between the material who makes a single object. Sometimes I feel like if I don't consider different material into the same object, I did my work at half. Not every time you can do this kind of thing, because if you, for example, if you work with a glass furnace, you just work with glass usually. But I love when I can express myself using different materials, combining them between one and each other. And this free topic it's just a simple example to show you and to close this webinar, to show you an example about how the limited edition and serial production fit into my three main topic. As you can see, the furniture on the left is called a living nature. It's like a polyfunctional seat. It's like a chaise longue, but have also the storage, has also the shelves. As you can see, this shelf in the front, you can remove and place into the top and use as book holder. So there is an interaction with the object, and it's also polyfunctional, and there are several materials. In fact, in this case, there are 5 different materials together. That is the glass, the metal structure, the upholstery that is in wood, wood for the storage, and marble for the pen holder. And in the same spirit, this project that is a lighting that I designed for Fontanarte was almost 3 years ago. Fontanarte is a really historical brand. The history starts in 1932, but 2017 was the first year that they use so many materials into the same object. And I'm really honored and blessed to force them to do this kind of project, because I love the idea, as I say, of putting together different material in order to create a sort of balance and timeless. In fact, in this project, you can see the base that is in marble. You have the metal structure, and then you have the combination between glass and leather for the light diffuser. So as you see, also here you can see the polyfunctionality, the interaction with the object, because you can take every single lantern and you put in different brackets. So for example, this can go here, this can go here. So you have an interaction with the object, and at the same time there is a contamination of material. So this is the final slide who can represent my work at best. And I really hope that you enjoy this, to discover my path and my inspiration. And I hope it could be useful for you also to better understand how it could be a path of a designer. Now I'm available for any kind of question, and thank you for listening to me.
Okay, thank you very much, Federico. I guess we don't have any question, and it has been very nice, and congrats for the choice of the images that were really inspiring and amazing. And thank you. I think then we will meet soon for the third and last meeting, and we will have the opportunity of having a direct exchange with our partners in Hong Kong. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. See you very soon. Have a lovely day.
Bye.